Welcome back, everybody. Now, we've heard all about corporate boardroom activism and what legislators are doing to try to eliminate ESG. But our final guest is the author of many books, including the successful Woke Inc. I suggest you read that. It's a really great book. And he has since launched Strive Asset Management to take on financial firms like BlackRock and Vanguard. He joins us now. His name is Vivek Ramaswamy. Let's start off here. I want to ask a little bit about what firms, when they're out there setting out these ESG policies now, what it's going to do to the future of drilling in America. Are they going to thwart our ability to produce energy in the future?
There's no doubt about it. I mean, the top investment managers in the world, including some of the firms that you named, BlackRock, Vanguard, I'd put State Street and Invesco on that list too.
Right.
What they're doing is they're aggregating the money of everyday citizens across this country, including probably viewers of this program. And they're using that to tell American energy companies to produce less oil, to frack for less natural gas, to stop producing energy, which has contributed to this generational energy crisis in the United States and around the Western world. And the irony is that actually the people who are picking up the slack in other parts of the world, in places like Russia and China, aren't bound by those same ESG constraints. I think that's a fiduciary breach. I think it's a form of financial scam. It's one of the biggest financial scams of the 21st century. But the good news is I think the everyday citizens, if they are able to wake up to this fact, they can realize that actually they have a voice and a vote with their own dollars. They don't have to delegate it over to firms like BlackRock and Vanguard.
Yeah, such an important dynamic. Money does talk and money walks, and the ability to actually use your investments to influence these companies, I think is going to be great. About a year ago, you wrote an incredible book, Woke Inc. It was the first time I really began to understand how much the liberal agenda had sunk into the boardroom. What has happened in the past year since that hit the New York Times bestseller list? What's happened in the last year to advance the liberal cause? How much more progress have liberals made in the boardroom?
Well, look, I think it's been a steady progress. In the last few months, we have seen it begun to abate as many of us have woken up and shown a light on these issues. But the basic point I made in the book is that what happened over the last half decade is that government realized they didn't have to accomplish everything through the front door. Politics was messy. Democracy is messy. Balance of power is messy. The Constitution is messy. So what they realized is actually you can use private companies to do through the back door what you could not accomplish through the front door under the Constitution. Censor speech that the government couldn't censor directly? Great. Give inducements and pressure to companies in Silicon Valley to censor that speech instead. Green New Deal, can't pass it through Congress? No problem. Get private companies to sign the climate pledge instead, as many major financial institutions have effectively been pressured to do across the United States. So that's what happened. And the vehicle for doing it, the number one vehicle, was the largest asset managers in the world, like BlackRock, effectively using their investment power and their voting power as an investor to mandate that companies behave this way. And then you ask what's in it for BlackRock. They get a lot of government favors in return. Great lines of business with the government, a lot of their alumni now staffing the Biden administration. So that's the way the game is played. And I jokingly use, not really even jokingly, I mean, in somewhat seriousness, use the term woke industrial complex to describe this in the book, because it's not just one actor. Woke capitalism is not one thing. It was a complicated convergence of forces that created the politicization of corporate America and the politicization of capital. Now, the good news is in the last year, I wouldn't want to take all the credit for it, but my book, the others who have shown a light on this issue, have begun to awaken people to this game that's being played with their own money, their own dollars, and their own voice. And so I think we're beginning to see a turning of the tides that could be quite positive if there are actual alternatives in the marketplace, if there are actual leaders in the civic and political sphere of our lives who can take up this issue as well.
Yeah, we've had some of them on the show today. States like Texas and Florida are beginning to say, hey, you're not going to get our pension business if you're a woke investment company. How much impact is that going to have, the fact that big, large state pension funds might be off the table for a BlackRock in the not so distant future?
Well, one of the simple principles is that if you're a fiduciary, as an asset manager, you're a fiduciary, you cannot be a good fiduciary to clients who have different interests from one another. I don't think this is necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a truth, which is to say that I'm not sure that you can have one asset manager appropriately represent the interests of California and Texas at the same time when California's interests do not fully align with those of Texas or New York's and the state of West Virginia. And at the end of the day, there's no God-given right for one firm to say, I have to control $10 trillion and then effectively talk out of both sides of my mouth to keep everyone's money under my management. At the end of the day, you have, in this country, a diverse base of clients, a diverse base of citizens with diverse views. That's what American democracy is about. Some people may want to use their capital, their own money, to say, I want to advance environmental agendas or cultural agendas in the boardroom. And that's fine. It's a free country. They're free to do that. But what they shouldn't be free to do is drag everyone else along with them. And so what I predict we're going to see is a bifurcation of the market to say that, you know what, there doesn't have to be one firm that controls $10+ trillion. Instead, there may be different firms that each serve different segments of the market. And it so happens that I believe that the biggest segment of that market, what most Americans want, is to tell American corporations to stay out of politics, to focus on making products and services for real people and make a profit doing it. That's what most people want out of corporate America. That's a big part of why I founded Strive, because as simple as that might sound, no one was really delivering that voice as a financial institution or as a shareholder in corporate America. That's what we're changing.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Since your book, it did. Now you got another book coming out on September 13th. Congratulations, Nation of Victims. The use of victimization to sell some of these policies is very powerful. Sometimes it's very misleading. We got about a minute left. Tell us a little bit about what that book's going to show us.
The book is about the new national identity in America built around victimhood. It pays to be a victim. And at the end of the day, we live in a culture that prioritizes, it conflates hardship with victimhood. Well, the case I make in the book is actually part of what it means to be American isn't to be a victim. It is to pursue excellence unapologetically. We've lost that, but we can get it back. And this isn't a Republican idea or a Democratic idea. It's an American idea. And I'm proud to say that book, Nation of Victims, it's going to be out on September 13th. I think it critiques both Republicans and Democrats at times, so it's not a partisan book. But I do hope that every American takes something away from it.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. It's going to be a great book. Real quick, about 30 seconds left. What can an individual investor, you're sitting here listening to, I don't want my money to go to woke stuff. What can they do to get in the game?
Well, look, I think the number one thing to do is to educate yourself, to recognize that at the end of the day, it is your money, and with your money comes a voice and a vote in the boardroom. Don't let somebody else use that voice and vote in a way that you disapprove of. Now, that's a big part of why I founded Strive. Strive's a new asset management firm competing with BlackRock. We listed our first exchange-traded fund on the New York Stock Exchange a few weeks ago. That was a U.S. energy fund. That one is called Drill, DRLL. But I hope that's the first of many, right? This is not about Strive. It's about something bigger, which is about empowering everyday individuals and investors to at least take back the power for themselves. That's effectively what I think the future holds.
Such an important thing, and it started with your book a year ago. You did start a movement, Vivek. We're forever grateful for what you started. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
All right, folks, it is an honor to have had you join us for tonight. We're so lucky to have these conversations that the rest of the media are afraid to have. It's made possible because of the incredible partner we have tonight, Heritage Action for America, of course, and Just the News and Real America's Voice, being able to work together to put on a forum like this. Now, if you're inspired and you want to do something, you can get involved by texting ESG. That's really easy to remember. ESG to 51776, 51776, or you can visit Heritage Action's website, esghertz.com. Two valuable things. I also want to say before we go tonight, I hope God blesses you on this extraordinary week as we head into the fall, that you may have a wonderful week with your family. God bless you, and good night.